Hello, welcome if you're new, welcome if you're not, welcome if this is the first time you are hearing my voice or it is the 33rd time you're hearing my voice. My name is Shannon and welcome to another episode of Try Not to Need Me. I know you don't hear those words very often because I have really been struggling, slacking, not posting as much podcast content as I do wish that I would have this year. And I think in reviewing kind of, I guess, my last sort of year in review kind of situation, it was very much something that I know that I wanted to focus on. And as the year has gone on and things have progressed and, you know, everything else in my life is so crazy, it just hasn't been a priority. And I do apologize for any of you that enjoy them enough to care and think like, wow, you know, that podcast thing that Shannon did, that was such a phase, blah, blah, blah. And I think the way that I was doing it, and I've always said I started it at a point where I needed a creative outlet and I wasn't getting that anywhere else. But I think now that I get that from so many other places now, it becomes so much harder to pour myself creatively into this outlet when I feel so time poor, but I also feel like that need has been satisfied elsewhere. But in saying that, I still love doing them, and I know that sometimes I just have to do it because at the end of the day it's going to benefit me. I enjoy it, I get enjoyment of it. Oh my god, I'm sorry about the lighting. I decided, for anyone who's listening, to film this episode because I really liked when I filmed the episodes, and quite a few people said they quite liked it to sort of have on, and then like they could just look at my facial expressions or they could just tune out and not. So I have filmed it, but I am recording this at 7:20 in the evening, so the sun is setting, which is pretty, but also making for some very interesting lighting. And I tried to be all like aesthetic with my candle lit in the background and like be one of those bitches. So let me know how that's working out for me. But obviously the sun setting is problematic. Anyway, this episode I wanted to do very much like a kind of another year in review, even though obviously this year I've only posted not that many episodes. I can tell you how many episodes I've posted this year. I probably don't want to. I have posted 4 episodes this year. Wow, Shannon. Wow. Good stuff. So the Looking Back to Look Ahead 1 year anniversary special, which was a year ago and was in November of last year, there have only been 4 episodes since then. Anywho. You're here now, and I do feel like I'm in a bit of a better place, and I think I've been making like random little movie content things for like my travels and stuff like that when I was doing that I sort of thought like I do enjoy doing that and I really should get back to doing it. I do get enjoyment out of it. So now that I've rambled for about 3 minutes just on, you know, the status of the podcast and where I'm at and why it's been so long, but it's only been 2 months since I last posted and the infrequency this year and yada, yada, yada. I appreciate all of you who stick around and still ask me about it and say like, when are you releasing another podcast episode, Shannon? Like, you've been a bit slack. Like, is there another one coming? What's the deal? And I think also this has come from the fact that at work, we launched a podcast and I'm co-hosting that. So then I kind of get my kicks from that podcast as opposed to my own. But this one, obviously, I have complete creative reign over and I can talk about literally whatever the fuck I want. I should continue pouring myself into this one, but it can be really hard to balance. Anyway, with all that being said, I thought it would be fun to review my 2019 and the decade, because the decade is coming to an end and I don't know how I feel about that, because I was talking on my work podcast and I will link that down below. We were recording an episode for next year and it was kind of about the decade that's been, and when we said, you know, we started this decade as 14-year-olds, and obviously leaving the decade, I'm turning 24 in a couple months, and 24 feels like such a scary age that should a 24-year-old really be sitting in the corner of her bedroom and recording a podcast and filming it and putting it on the internet? I don't know. Traditionally, probably not, but I am because I can and I want to. Anywho, it's not where I thought I would be at 24. Don't know where I thought I would be at 24, but I don't think it's here. But I was looking at a couple of old like journals and stuff, and so much has happened this decade, I guess because it is a formative year. Like, it was very much my step into adulthood, and people my age would definitely agree with me on that this was sort of the years where we figured out who we were and what we liked and what we wanted and what our life was going to look like, or so, we thought or we wanted it to. And it's just been a really, really crazy ride, and I think I've enjoyed every minute of it, but it's been, a lot of stress and anxiety and just lots of shit going on all the time. But I think I'm finishing this decade in a really good place, spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially. Like, I think I am in a better place than I probably thought I would be a couple years ago. So I'm quite happy about that. So I thought I have collated a few questions to sort of like sum up the year. And I just thought I would chat about my 2019 and my year in review, considering didn't check in with you guys as much this year as I probably should have. But yeah, without further ado, let's get on into the questions that I'm asking myself. So this is not an advice episode, so if you wanted advice, wait till the next episode. When will that be? Who knows? Okay, first thing being, most important goal that I achieved this year. And I do have a couple that come to mind. The first big one is probably in terms of like my health and fitness and my physical appearance. This was the year that I finally took control of my health and said, I no longer want to be overweight and unhappy and in a position where I wake up every morning and get dressed and hate my body and hate my clothes and hate how I look. And I, for so long, I think was burdened with that anxiety and that self-confidence issues. But it was never, it never got to a point of me actually trying, and actually, I mean committing to trying. Sorry, I have something in my mouth. To actually do something about it. I think I was very much like a yo-yo dieter. It was like a fad thing. I'd be really healthy and maybe start walking and work out for like 4 weeks, and then I wouldn't really see results, so I would just go back to how I was. And over the years, the weight just kind of stacked on, and I think it was quite gradual. So when I say to people, I weigh less now than I'm pretty sure I did in year 12, they're like, oh, like, you look great, but I wouldn't have said you were X amount of kilos heavier then. And I don't think it was like a quick, I just put on a bunch of weight. I think it was just over the years of just not taking care of myself and not taking control of my health and not working out in a healthy way and all of that kind of stuff. Whereas this year I got to the heaviest I'd ever been. And I looked in the mirror and I said, I don't want this anymore. This is not what I want for myself. I deserve better, and I know I can do better. So 100 days out of my trip to Europe in the middle of the year, I went, right, enough is enough. Clean eating, go to the gym as often as you can, and just be a better version of yourself. So prior to Europe, I lost about 13 kilos and I was really feeling my oats, and I was like, yes, I look so good. And I think I did in comparison, but then when I got back, I was like, oh, what's the point? Like, I'm so unmotivated. Like, in my head for that, it was very much wanting to look good at Tomorrowland, or wanting to look good on a beach in Greece, or wanting to just feel better about myself while I was in Europe. That was my motivation. It wasn't actually a long-term thing. It took me a while, but late October, I decided to start doing light and easy because I wanted a new way to be really accountable for it and say, well, I'm paying all this money. There is no excuse. It is so easy and convenient. It's all done for you. All you have to do is eat it and not eat anything else, and that's it. And it's worked for me. So I'm now about 18 kilos down from my heaviest point, whenever that was, and I feel amazing, but I have further to go. But I think I finally developed a healthy relationship with food and with working out, and I know that food is fuel, and I know that working out is good not only to like tone and lose weight, but also for your mental health. And when I go, I just feel so much better. And while I'm there, it's like, oh, it's a struggle. I'm sweaty. Like I feel gross. All I want to do is go home and have a shower. But once I finish, I feel like the endorphins finally kick in and I'm like, oh shit, I feel great for going. And I know that I needed to do this for myself. So yeah, I think I'm going into 2020 with a really good outlook and definitely at a place where I want to see how much I can succeed in terms of like looking and feeling my best. And I'm not really putting a number or a goal or a size or anything on that. I think it's about a mindset of getting to a place of really being content with where I'm at and feeling confident and feeling like I can wear what I want and feel good about it. So that's, one of my biggest goals that I achieved this year was definitely finally losing some weight. Next thing, big mistake I made this year and the lesson I learned from it. I think this year a lot of stuff happened and I probably dealt with some really interesting levels of anxiety that I've never encountered in my life, and a lot of it came from work. And I love my job, don't get me wrong, but I think I got so wrapped up in workload and constantly feeling a pressure to deliver certain things and constantly feeling like I had to be at 150% all the time and constantly just feeling like I had to just do everything at once. And I know that as one person, I couldn't do that. And I got really overwhelmed. And I sort of was like, I don't want to do it anymore. But I don't think it was about my job in particular. I think it was just that I had stopped learning how to cope with stress. And when I took a look back at why I was stressed, why I felt so anxious, what was really going on, it was me putting these immense amounts of pressure on myself to deliver as an employee, as a friend, as someone who was trying to lose weight, as a family member. Suddenly everything in life felt so overwhelming. And I've never been a particularly anxious person. I've dealt with it here and there, but in terms of an overall level of anxiety day to day, not really how I am as a person. Very few things will set me off, but I'm not an anxious person. I'm very lucky in that regard. And I think I've said this before. But when I got to that point and I was sort of going home and I was crying often and I was on the borderline of essentially an anxiety attack, every moment of every day for a month, I was like, what can I do to fix it? And obviously for some people that is seeking professional help or whatever. For me, it was just externalizing my issues. And especially one of my best friends, he's very much a soundboard for me to just say I just need to vent. I don't necessarily need you to give me your opinion or your advice. And he does the same for me. I just need you to listen and tell me that everything's going to be okay. And he was really good at doing that. And that's all I needed to cope, was to just say, here's everything that's stressing me out. Here's everything that's making me anxious. I just need to get it out and then everything will be fine. And he was like, everything is fine. Don't stress. I mean, you can't tell a stressed person not to stress, but he was like, it'll be okay, one day at a time, get through what you can get through and just let bygones be bygones. So I think in terms of a mistake I made was letting myself get to that place, because I could feel it coming and I was like, I'm fine. And then I wasn't, but now I am. So I think refusing to believe that my problems were valid is definitely a big one, and I've been a massive advocate of that to my friends. I'm always like, your feelings and your opinions and the way you are, your emotions are always valid, and you should never feel like they're not. So why didn't I take my own advice? So I have learned how to do that. Now I understand that though I may have an anxiety about a really stupid little thing, I'm allowed to feel that way, and that's okay, and then I move on. And I think that's become my very healthy coping mechanism for anything that does induce anxiety or stress within me. And now I feel like I'm in a really good place. So that was a mistake, was letting that get as bad as it did. This year, what did you learn about yourself? I'm a pretty self-aware person, and I think at the age of 23, you know most of the things about you that kind of define you as a person. But if I had to say something that, apparently when I eat, I look up and I look around. So apparently I'll take a bite of food and then I will just eat my food and I will just be looking around and whatever. But what a random thing to learn about myself, right? Anyway, tidbit for you. The person who pointed that out, you know who you are, and it annoys me now and I have a complex about it. But I think this year I learned that I'm a lot more resilient than I give myself credit for. And my manager at work has told me this a couple times through like periods of change and stuff. And she's like, you just get on with it. And I think I have a facade of doing that, and putting up the facade actually works in favor of it being successful. So I'll pretend everything's fine, and then everything will be fine. And so I've learned that I actually do cope with change in a relatively healthy capacity for the most part, which I think is a really good skill to have. And it's nice to be aware of the fact that if that is the case, that people will probably come to me in times of stress and change for guidance or for just support. And so it's really nice to be in that position. So I think that's something I learned about myself this year. This year, what did you learn about other people? I learned that everyone is just as insecure as you are. And I think this comes from like little fights that I've had with friends, and they'll sort of say, but I thought that this is how you felt. And I'm like, well, I thought that this is how you felt. And then it just becomes this circle of everybody overthinking what the other person, was thinking, but nobody actually asking what was going on. And I think that's kind of funny. We live in this constant state of like, everybody else hates me, when in actual fact, everyone else thinks that everyone else hates them. Whereas you probably don't really hate that many people, especially not the ones that you hang out with every day. So I think I learned that everybody feels just as insecure and like they don't belong as you do, but that you can't let that overrule you in your thoughts to other people. So if you think that they hate you, they probably think that you hate them, and actually neither of you are angry or hate each other. So either ask them and say like, hey, you alright? And if they're like, yeah, 100%, and they're like, are you alright? And you're like, yeah, totally, then you could probably move on from something relatively quickly. But yeah, that's something that I learned about other people this year. Best memory of the year. I have had such an incredible year in terms of travel. I've been very, very lucky and in a very fortunate position to have taken 3 overseas holidays this year. So I went to Singapore in January, I went to Europe in July, and I went to Hong Kong a couple of weeks ago. So my best memories this year probably come from those events. And I think being able to make those memories traveling with people that I enjoy spending time with is amazing, and having fun with friends and just, exploring a new culture and a new place. And it makes you so aware of what you have, but also that everybody is living their own life and on their own path. And I don't know, I just really like being able to engross myself in somebody else's world, in somebody else's culture, and to really feel connected to that by traveling. And so a lot of my best memories have come from that. I think I have to call out Tomorrowland, the music festival in Belgium that I went to, because it was like nothing I have ever experienced in my life, and I would not change that for the world. That experience was something I will always cherish, will always remember as one of the best weekends of my life. It was just a phenomenal moment of like community and like global community, and really feeling like there is enough good in this world that we can all get along. As like hippie, happy clapper as that sounds, I think it really was a massive eye-opener of how much good and virtue there actually can be in the world, and that we should focus on that a little more than we usually do. So that's got to be up there with some of my best memories of the year. Favorite song, TV show, and movie. So in terms of a favorite song, my top streamed song on Spotify was Body by Loud Luxury, which is actually quite an old song, but it became a bit of a Tomorrowland song, which I think is why I played it so much. But Ariana Grande was my most streamed artist, and I think I will forever love her and everything that she does musically, and in life as well. So that's probably where I'm at in terms of music. Favorite TV show this year, I've sort of dabbled in quite a few. I'm quite happy that Grey's Anatomy is now on Stan, because I am a massive Grey's fan, so rewatching it is quite easy. I started watching The Morning Show, which is on Apple TV Plus, and I really, really think that's been a standout TV show this year. And then I always have to give love to RuPaul's Drag Race. If you've never seen it, go and watch it. It's on Stan. It's amazing. It's just good gay culture. It's good. Go go involve yourself in that. And movie, I didn't watch a lot of movies this year. I want to say Toy Story 4, but I can't because it wasn't that good and I wish it was better. Movies I saw this year, I really liked Ride Like a Girl, which was about Michelle Payne, who was the first female to win the Melbourne Cup in Australia. But surely I watched a better movie than that. I don't know. I haven't watched a lot of movies this year, I'm not gonna lie. Haven't watched a lot. Best thing I bought all year. Best thing I bought. Does food count? I don't feel like I've made any massive purchases this year. I think everything that I use on a daily basis I already owned. So I think maybe a pair of shoes. But even, no. I don't know. Nothing's really standing out to me in terms of something amazing that I bought this year. Plane tickets, do they count? Plane tickets. Best purchase all year. What are you most grateful for this year? I have gotten to an age where I've come to realize that people in your social circle, if they survive, you know, the rise and the fall of high school, and there are now a lot of the people in my immediate social circle I have known for 10 plus years. And that to me is insane. You know, my really, really close friends, most of them are from school, and we've survived school and getting out of school and staying in touch and bonding and becoming closer. Like a vast majority of my close friends now I've known since I was 12, which is crazy to me that I've known them for almost 12 years. No, we may not have been as close as we are now for all of those years, but I've known them for so long that it's so interesting when you surpass a certain point of your friendship and you're like, right, you're probably going to be in my life for an indiscriminate amount of time, and that's amazing, and I love that. But then there's also people who will just sort of float in and out, and they might be there, but they may not be bringing you as much value and purpose as they used to, and that's also okay. And I don't think you necessarily ever have to say to someone like, I don't want to be your friend anymore. I think you just let life run its course, and if you drift, you drift, and if you both pick up an effort to say like, oh, I feel like we're drifting, and you both want the same things, then you make sure that that doesn't happen. Like, I think there is always a way to ensure that the people you want in your life will remain in your life. But yeah, I think I'm most grateful for my friends. My friends are incredibly amazing people and all very virtuous and bring so much value and joy to my life, and I wouldn't imagine a world where I didn't have them around me. I think I'll always be grateful for my family, because they're always going to be there at the end of the day. And I'm really grateful that I have a job and a career that I'm enjoying and that I see a future in, and that's quite hard to feel it at such a young age, that you have a path and you have a career and you're somewhere that you do want to be. And so I'm grateful for that as well. 3 words to sum up 2019. I would say fun. I had fun this year. It was a fun year. It was fun. Fun, I would say experiential. I just saw a lot of the world. I did a lot of things. I met a lot of new people. I got to go to some really cool events and meet some amazing humans, and yeah, so experiential. And I would say like soul finding. Like, I feel like I very much know who I am as a person, and I'm pretty confident in that, as like in me as a person. Like, you know, there are people in my corner, and I have friends who say that they like to hang out with me, which is nice, and I like to hang out with them. So you get a certain level of like, okay, my personality as it is pretty good, and I'm happy with it. I've got flaws, but everyone does. But as long as you're aware of them and you try to like keep them under control, then I think you're doing okay. And so, yeah, I would say soul finding, soul seeking, soul fulfilling. It was a fulfilling year. I feel like I was fulfilled this year with so many good things. It was a good year. And then I just have best and worst of the decade. Now, this came from my reflection for my work podcast about the stuff in terms of pop culture and society that's gone on this year. And I think globally and socially, we're in a really interesting position at this point because, you know, the environment is such a big thing in terms of climate crisis and, you know, all of our politicians refusing to take responsibility and take the initiative to do anything about it. I think, you know, the economy is in a weird place where it's quite strong, but it's also really weak. You know, we're in so much debt as nations. How do you move on from that? And we have so many politicians in power that we just don't believe in. Like, if people aren't exercising their right to vote and they're complaining about the people in power, you know, obviously Donald Trump just got impeached, but he has to have 67 people across the Senate vote him out. And when you have 54 of those are from your own party, they're probably not going to defect on you. So I don't think that's actually going to come to fruition. If it does, amazing. But in Australia, we have Scott Morrison, who just left the country in a fiery blaze to go on holiday. And we have Boris Johnson, who is trying to make this massive decision. And I don't know enough about Brexit to sit here and tell you what should or shouldn't happen. But when you talk to people from the UK who do understand it and know what it's going to mean for them as people and their families who may still live there, you know, they expressed that Boris Johnson is not necessarily the leader that they want, but he was just re-elected. If people aren't exercising their legal right to vote and choose who runs our nations, you're not taking responsibility for your own future. If you don't vote in elections in your country, stop complaining or go vote. That's my PSA about that. Anywho, a really interesting fact I found out was that when the GFC was happening at the start of this decade, America was in $12.3 trillion of debt. And it was called, you know, the downturn of their ecosystem. It was the worst decade of American history. America is now in $23 trillion of debt, and they don't seem to care. So, and again, I don't know a lot about politics or ecosystems of anything. Like, my knowledge base is not necessarily in societal standpoints and politics and all of that kind of stuff, but I think I know what I know, and I know when things are right and wrong, and I just feel like we're in a very weird state of emergency, but also we have to be the change that we want to see. We have to continue to fight for the things that we care about, if that is, you know, women's rights to choose abortion, if that is things that are currently in the Religious Discrimination Act that are going to allow people to discriminate against people for their religious standpoint or their gender or their inability to choose something or to choose something. If we're at a place where a nation can leave its union and that will have a negative knock-on effect to its people, like what are we doing? What are we standing for? Why don't people want to do something? And I'm not going to sit here and say I'm doing all I can, because I know that I could be doing better, but you have to know that you could be doing better and the things you can do. I know I could use less plastic. I need to stop using straws. I need to continue using reusable coffee cups. I need to drive less. I need to travel less because it does emit carbon emissions. I know there are things I could be doing, and I need to start choosing to do them, and I know that. So this whole spiel basically is that this decade was weird, and I think next decade could be weirder if we don't start making changes now. Personally, socially, globally, I think we need some new leadership for people that actually want what's best for their nations and their people, and as much of a vast majority of them as they can get. I think we need our generation, Gen Z, people my age and younger, to take control and say it is our future, it is our choice, we will do this, and we commit to being the change we want to see. And I think that is the message that I want for 2020 and the 2020s as a decade, is to make them better and to make change, because I think we could all make a little change that's going to have a big impact one day. That's that on that. That was very preachy. Not how I like to get, but anyway, so thank you so much if you have listened to this whole episode or watched it. Hello, if you have watched it, with my candle burning away in the background. It is Winter Candy Apple from Bath & Body Works. I wish I was sponsored by anybody at this point. But yeah, if you did enjoy seeing another episode, please let me know, and I will be back to regular scheduled program in terms of content in the next episode. I'm not committing to when that is, but I'm just saying that whenever it is, it will be back to advice. So if you have anything you want me to talk about, if you have anything you want advice with, or you have any questions about my life, send them through. Send them to any of the things that are linked down below that you can contact me on, or just message me on Instagram, or if you know me personally, send me a text. Yeah, thanks again for listening, watching, subscribing, liking, commenting, sharing, all those fun things. You know where to find me, and I'm here if you need me, but try not to need me, because Lord knows I'm not here often. Anyway, bye.